Hi, this is Daron Cersei with the Facebook group Single Black Atheists Dating Pool, and this is the third interview of a member. The member that I'm talking to today is Allie, and she is currently in Mississippi. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
All right. Could you give a brief description of yourself so people get to know you a little better before we begin?
A description of myself. Physical description?
Both physical and personality. Yeah.
Well, for physical description, you can look at my pictures on Facebook, so I'll just leave that at that. I am 5'3", though. My pictures don't really make that obvious, and a lot of people thought I was taller, but I'm 5'3". I am very outgoing, very sort of big personality, but I'm also sort of an even mix, I think, of being an extrovert and an introvert. It depends on the setting that I'm in. But for the most part, around people that I know, I'm extremely, outgoing, bubbly, kind, sweet. I'm very funny. I think I'm a comedian. I don't, most people tend to agree, but I do think I'm funny. I love college football. I think that's one thing that anyone who knows me has to know and hopefully even embrace. And I'm a counselor, and so a lot of how I interact with people, both in a social setting and in a professional setting, that part of me sort of always emerges because I love to help people. I love to sort of be there for people, listen to people, help people be better. And so I think that's probably something that really I think is helping is to me synonymous with my name. And I do go by Alysia as well as Allie. My name is Alysia, and my nickname is Allie, so I answer to both.
Okay. In my extensive research, I imagine that you're a big Gators fan.
Yes, huge Florida Gators fan. And actually, let me clarify something. Since this is a dating group, I would prefer that my partner be as obsessed with it as I am with college football, preferably even with my team. But I understand that I'm a bit abnormal with that obsession. And I've actually struggled to find a guy who likes college football. Believe it or not, I've actually really struggled with that. Pro football, yeah. College football, not so much. And so for me, my ideal partner is one who would just be interested in going to games with me, watching games with me, sort of getting into it with me. But I don't expect them to love it as much as I love it, but just to develop sort of enough interest just because, hey, I like her and she likes that, so let me at least try to like it. I would really appreciate a person like that.
Well, has there been a problem dating to find someone that's like, okay, well, they're into you, they like you, but they can't deal with sitting and going to a college football game, or is that something that just has never come up? That has been a problem? It
has been a problem. My last boyfriend, his sport is taekwondo, so that's what he did. That was a sport to him, and he was not trying to sit down and watch any other type of sport on TV. So it was a real issue, and I actually remember, you might have to edit this part out, I don't know, but I remember being intimate with him once, and I had put the game on, a Florida Gators game on, and we were, getting into it or whatever. And there was a point where, he noticed that I had sort of stretched my neck a little bit to try to see the TV, and it was a really big problem. And it was, I was like, gosh, I thought guys would drool over a girl like me that liked football like that, but he was just so not. He was very offended by that. But so that was one.
Well, that's understandable. I mean, I can understand that part. I just
don't
understand. Yeah, like during the middle of something going on where, you have to see this particular play. Not offended, but, it's like sort of like, yeah.
Well, I actually didn't want to do anything. I was like, the game is on, halftime, I got you. He insisted, he kept pushing, and I was like, okay, so this is sort of like,
well, that was it.
I call that compromise,
It was really less of the football game and more you're not being into it enough. That was the thing.
No, I really wanted to watch the game. This is my Florida Gators playing.
That's what I'm saying. You weren't into it. That's what I mean. You weren't into him. You were into the game.
Exactly.
And stretching your neck to. But yeah, I don't see. I don't see because guys, we make compromises, so I'll go to a wedding that I really don't want to go to if I'm into a girl, and watching a football game, even if I'm not into it, if I'm into pro football and not college football, that seems a little, ridiculous.
I think the issue with him is an issue that I've seen with a lot of guys, too, is that when it comes to sex, is that feeling that I know I got it going on, and I know this girl is just going to be all up into what I'm doing. So he was more offended by the fact that if I'm that focused on watching the game while we're doing it, then he must not, you know what I'm saying? He must not be doing something, I guess he's supposed to have, the golden pipe that would keep me from even thinking about the game in that moment. And I think it offended him, it bruised his ego that, you're good, but you're not good enough to make me take my mind off this down right here. You know what I'm saying? So I think it was more about that for him. I mean, I'm not saying all guys are like this, but for him specifically, like he really thought he had it going on, and then that made him realize that it must not be as great as he thought it was.
It can be that it may not necessarily be the pipe itself, but just, being there with him, he feels like you're not into it. And in a way I can see where you would be sort of conflicted and you can still be into him, because I did have a girlfriend at the time. I imagine it was while Lost was in its third season. And so 9 p.m. Lost starts, and, I really want to see Lost, and I just got off work, and, I'm sort of, ready for something, I don't know what word to describe, frisky or whatever, to be corny about. But, she was understandable enough to get that done before Lost began, right before it began. So that'd be, so that sounds like a good thing.
And a lot of guys usually don't take me seriously when I talk about just how into that I am. My passion is college football. College sports I love in general, but I am extremely passionate about college football. It brings me joy from August to January. I'm like high. So I don't think that he really realized that with me saying it. This is the first time he had actually experienced it. And I have that problem with a lot of guys that when they actually see me watching a game, or, as a matter of fact, the other day I was at Hooters, and I'm like at the bar eating wings and drinking beer and watching the game, and these guys are like, okay, wait a minute, you're here by yourself at Hooters, like watching football? I think it really kind of blows a lot of guys' minds because it seems so unusual. And I think in my experiences, few guys have really taken me seriously when I talk about, just how much I love it and how much of a passion of mine that it is. They kind of think I'm joking. So in his case, me saying, no, I really want to watch the game, he's like, whatever, you don't really want to watch the game. You really want me. You really want to be with me. I'm your man, And I think that was sort of like eye-opening for him that, okay, this girl really is different. She actually has a problem here. So I've gone through that many times,
So let me ask you this, sort of serious about it. I have this little idea in my mind that these fanatical Oprah Winfrey fans, that are just really into it and that make it to the show, maybe in the front row while the show is being taped, and she actually looks at them or gives them a high five and shakes their hand and they go crazy and start crying. This is like an ultimate experience for them. And in my head, I imagine that if they were honest, then their ultimate sexual experience could only really occur if they happen to, maybe be receiving oral in the Oprah Winfrey studio while Oprah shakes their hand at the same time and everybody orgasms at that particular moment. That would be the ultimate, So for you, would it involve some type of football player that you're really into, or being with a man or women at the same time of a touchdown of a national championship?
No, not for me. That honestly would not be the ultimate for me when it comes to intimacy. I think just as far as wanting some great, fabulous experience that if I had it, I could die the instant after it, and everyone would know I died happy, would definitely be, watching a game from the sidelines, watching Florida play for the national title from the sidelines against Notre Dame and whooping their asses. Like, that would be, ultimate high for me. When it comes to my ultimate sexual high, though, no, it's a totally different thing, because honestly, nothing ultimate when it comes to sex is going to involve a man for me. That's just the truth. Maybe Jaimon Hansu, I don't know, but then, a woman would still have to be there. But my ultimate sexual whatever would definitely involve a woman. Probably not involving football at all, because, it would only mean a lot to me if that meant a lot to her too. And I've never met a woman who's into football. If I do, though, I want her number. Like, I want to get with her. I want to marry her. We can go to California, whatever, because she would be top. But I've never met that. But no, I really just like the sport. You know what I mean? It really is just a sport. It's not even about certain players, although I do, love my Gators, even the ones who've gone on, the Emmitt Smiths, the Tim Tebow's, Percy Harvins, the people who've already, moved on. I still love them because they played, but I'm very, focused on the current roster. And I get with my guys that are playing each season. And so that's, it's just the sport itself. It's weird. I never went to Florida. I just love that team. I always have loved that team since middle school. And I'm a fan, do or die. If they lose every game this fall, I'm still going to watch every game and love them and root for them and cheer for them. I'll probably cry. I'll probably need to be on suicide, alert. But I'm a ride or die fan.
All right. So, you're educated. You are, you went to Regent University, which I found out recently, and there was a note that you posted on Facebook that included information that this was is it a Pat Robert? Was it sponsored or founded by Pat Robertson? Or?
No, he's I think, gosh, I don't. I've heard that he was one of the founders, but I was never able to validate that. But he was chancellor for quite a few years. So as the campus developed, the main campus is in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And they actually have, nice little campus, big, pretty buildings and all that. But by the time they had expanded, as they were expanding to have an online program and to have a D.C. campus, he was the chancellor at the time. So he was actually largely responsible as the leader at that time for its expansion. So it offered, I attended it because, number one, I was at the time a Christian, very radical Christian at that time. So the evangelical Christian nature of the institution very much fit what I thought was right for me at that time. But it also had the counseling program. Mental health is something that's extremely important to me. My mother suffers from mental illness. My brother is schizophrenic and bipolar. And so this is something that I grew up with, and I had seen the way the church viewed mental illness, depression, and things like that, and I did not like it at all. And I felt like people, especially black people, weren't getting the help that they needed because they were made to believe that mental illness, wasn't the same as diabetes or cancer or the flu. So this is different. This is a demon spirit. This is your choice. And all you got to do is pray it out or have Pastor so-and-so lay hands on you and it's gone. And people were not getting what they needed because they were buying into that. And so I had this vision of getting a master's in counseling, become a counselor, and studying Christian counseling, sort of marrying the two, because at Regent they did, as evangelical as they were, their School of Counseling and Psychology really did give you that psychology, that science part of mental illness, and I liked that. It was still the faith integration, and I said, well, this is perfect because then this will help me work with people in the church and still be able to give them that scriptural, biblical counseling thing, but then slide that, psychoanalysis in there as well, so that they knew it's nothing wrong with you going to the doctor, seeing a psychotherapist, taking an antidepressant. You shouldn't feel like a failure. You shouldn't feel like you're less of a Christian. So this was sort of my modus operandi at that time. And it still is something that I want to do is really, I really have a thing for working with people who are diehard Christians, trying to help them understand, a chemical imbalance in the brain is no different than any other physical ailment or a medical condition in the body, and it's okay to go to the doctor. It's okay to take medication. And this is something that the church isn't telling people. So it's still a passion of mine, even though I really, reject that aspect of my education.